Part 3 opens with the ponies having lost their bad makeup and hairdos. You know, I wonder if they had different directors for each part and they didn't bother to match notes. Like I said, nothing was done well in this episode.
It will all be over soon!
Lies! I still have half of this damn episode to get through. The bird dogs, as I'll be calling them from now on, get the clipping. However, the ponies' mates instantly grow back. Warning, My Little Pony figurines do not work this way. Do not try this at home. Unfortunately, this makes them a renewable resource, as Porcena will just have him shaved again when she needs a new cloak. It looks like their only hope is rescue, and knowing who's on the job, they are so screwed. The bird dogs take the captives to the weaving room. Porcena, the Pikmin enemy she keeps as a pet, come and she tells them to make her cloak. Gusty sneezes at her because she's suddenly allergic to pigs. And I mean suddenly. She didn't so much as sniff when Porcena was practically groping her in the last part, but now Porcena can't get within a foot of her without her sneezing her head off. This is also going to be a plot device later. Joy. The three are hooked up to the weaving machinery. The lead bird dog tells them that they'll be turned to glass by Porcena if they don't do it with the cloak that they're making. Please explain this logic to me. Make our super weapon or we will attack you with our super weapon. What does this episode have against me? Seriously! As for the Keystone Cops rescue party, the Bush Boys are still leading them in circles.
Could this be the way in?
You have no idea how terrible I feel for being glad Megan took charge of this situation. The Bush Woolies have also suddenly gained the bare arms they had in the end of Flutter Valley. I don't even know why they came up with the alternate design in the first place, and why start using it halfway through an episode. Megan and the ponies take point, which is a smart decision as the Bush Boys' sense of direction continues to be terrible. Shady also decides to hang back and stay out of sight as backup. Of course, hanging back and staying out of sight means following 6 feet behind them. And they go completely unnoticed, meaning if they were the Raptorians, they would easily capture the rescue party. Okay, this is officially the worst rescue party in the history of My Little Pony, bar none, including the ones that got their asses kicked. At least that was because they were against a worthy opponent other than their own overwhelming stupidity.
What's that?
Oh yeah, we get the first ever line out of Paradise in this episode. However, she'll get a proper debut in a much better episode. I know that doesn't narrow things down all that much, but I'll get to it eventually. The Bush Boys try to subject the ponies to their terrible sense of direction again, but Megan is already spending enough of her stupid points not realizing Shady and Molly are right behind her and make their decision for them. In the meantime, the captives sing a sorrowful song as they're forced to make the new cloak. The bird dogs gleefully take it to Porcena as it's their ticket to a new land. They're so happy they leave the three unattended and the others show up. The Bush Boys end up crashing through the wall of glass trying to see in the hole. Seriously, Bush Woolies, you're approaching Furbob level of irritating. Just go away. This episode is bad enough as it is. We get some exposition as the three explain Porcena wants to turn Ponyland into glass. Shady's also listening in. She tries to think of a way to stop the pig woman when she hears they use the pony hair and turns her attention to all the Bush Boy hair that's lying around. Porcena is happy with her new cloak. I wish I could say the same with this episode. What else could they possibly do to me at this point? The lead bird dog convinces Porcena to try it out on Ponyland. She happily agrees and glass flies to place. The ponies are naturally shocked everything is now glass. Even the mushroom is glass. Wait. The Moonchick's mushroom is supposedly protected with his magic. Are we supposed to believe Porcena with the cloak made of pony hair is more powerful than him? Urgh. Then the lead bird dog easily convinces Porcena to do it to the living creatures. She breaks out her spellbook and gets to work.
It is?
Bim Sim Sala!
There, it's done.
You just killed everything in Ponyland or entombed them in bodies of living glass and that's all you can say? Even Megatron and Cobra Commander aren't that nonchalant about wiping out entire populations. She goes to lie down. The bird dogs gloat about how Ponyland is now theirs. We're left with the horrifying scene of the ponies being glassed. The only thing more horrifying is there's another part to go still. Part 4 went through some odd editing. In the original broadcast, it had a song called Hurry in it. However, it was cut out and the episode was slowed down a bit to make up for the time lost. This has led to the audio seeming off as it's slightly lower pitched. Anyway, let's get this train wreck over with already. Megan and company are still slinking around.
Shh, be very quiet.
We're hunting idiots. They overhear the bird dogs gloating about how Porcena's turned Ponyland into glass and are ready to move in. The ponies head in the direction the bird dogs came from and enter Porcena's throne room. They get to see her handiwork, however they have to hide as the bird dogs come back for some reason before leaving again. I want to take a minute here to talk about an issue I have with this episode. Well, yeah, I've got tons of issues with this episode, but this is a really big one. Why are the ponies so scared of these things? They're not intimidating, not even by the standards of this show. Granted, their size is varied greatly through the episode, being as much as 7 or 8 feet tall compared to the ponies. But even then, I just don't buy the ponies rolling over to these flabby, stupid clouds of piss in the gene pool. Their physical presence makes Crank look like he should have been in Pacific Rim in comparison. They're so stupid the captives could have escaped by saying they're over there and dashing away in the opposite direction. If there was an enemy the ponies should have just throttled because they could do it, it's these freaks. Yet the ponies, even those free, dive for cover when they come. I mean, seriously, what could these things do to them? I also have to ask the bird dogs something. What are you going to do with Ponyland now that it's glass? Can you eat glass? Do you want to sleep on glass? Do you want to do stuff in a world made of glass? Seriously, what good is Ponyland to you now that it's glass? The ponies meet Shady as they leave and she explains her plan. They can use the bush woolly hair to make a fake cloak and replace the real one. Wait a minute, I thought the bush woolies were magical creatures too. That was suggesting the end of Flutter. Bad Al! You're trying to apply continuity to this show and do an episode that refuses to be consistent with itself. Bad! 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 With no better ideas, they make a fake cloak. They then head to Porcena's bedroom to make the switch. Unfortunately, we have to listen to her mumble in her sleep about her beautiful cloak. And Gusty also has her sneezing problem to worry about. Porcena is, of course, wearing it to make things harder. Makes me wonder how much of a good idea it is to wear that thing to bed. Considering she talks in her sleep, she could cast a spell and turn herself into glass or something. Second thought, that's a brilliant idea! Come on, Porcena, just say the right words! Megan grabs the cloak, but Porcena rolls over and wraps herself in it. Megan has them get into formation to make the switch. Gussie tickles Porcena's foot to get her to roll out of her cloak.
I must be even more magnificent than I thought.
Wait, but she was... Wait, how... And not only was the pig allergy a retcon, it was a hindering retcon. Was this episode specifically written to be this stupid? And now they have the problem that both cloaks are on her, and there's no telling which is which. However, this brings me to this conclusion. It's been demonstrated that Porcena is powerless without her cloak. So why not just grab both, give her a good buck in the head to knock her out, cancel her spells, and then take the cloaks, her book, and the weaving equipment and make a giant bonfire to burn the script on. They didn't even need a fake cloak. Now things go from stupid to just plain bad as the bird dogs are coming. Megan grabs one cloak and everyone hides before the bird dogs come in. They tell Porcena the ponies have escaped and another algae attack from Gusty gives them away. Megan threatens them with the cloak, however the bird dogs believe it's a fake and demand Porcena turns the ponies into glass. She starts using the wrong spell but can't do it. Wait. What?
The ponies in my crystal orb didn't seem real. But these ponies here, these living, breathing, trembling creatures of flesh are alive.
What the hell just happened here? To the writers of this episode, you can't write! What the hell were you thinking? After having Porcena kill every living thing in Ponyland, or worse, entomb them in their own bodies as casually as I decide what colors of socks to wear, and thinking nothing of the consequences, we're honestly supposed to believe she's not evil or a sociopath deserving comeuppance? You honestly expect us to accept her simply misguided? No! It doesn't work this way. This isn't Dragon Ball. What's worse is there is no inciting incident for this change in personality. Look at the other villains that immobilize their victims in this series. Crunch was given what was essentially a software patch to stop him from being a heartless berserker. Charlatan stopped when he froze his son, and he was doing what he was doing because he believed it was for the good of all penguins. Here, Porcena suddenly decides if you're standing right in front of her, you deserve to live. She's that disconnected from reality and we're still supposed to consider her redeemable? No! That's absolutely stupid! Porcena is evil or at least sociopathic. It is her motivation to turn everything in the world to glass and has no qualms about including living creatures. It's not a means to an end. It is the end. As far as she's concerned, everything is there for her to consume. Her character doesn't lend itself to a heel-face term. There is nothing about her personality or any backstory to suggest it. To see her suddenly act good is just aggravating because it's completely contrived to give us the conclusion the writers wanted to have, and they didn't bother doing any of the groundwork to get us to this point. The lead bird dog is as pissed as I am and decides to do it himself, and again using the wrong spell. Nothing happens, which means that Megan has a real one. Or he used the wrong spell. This leads to a tug-of-war between the bird dogs and Megan and the ponies.
Don't be afraid.
Be absolutely terrified. As soon as you leave her room, your lives literally mean nothing to her. The tug-of-war leads to the cloak ripping and the power turning the bird dogs into glass. Well, at least someone got their comeuppance. Anyone know any good opera with lots of high notes? Porcena comments that they didn't feel and that they never felt anything for anyone but themselves. Sound familiar, bitch? She says she never saw that in a lot of other things. If you excuse me, I'm gonna go and vomit for a little bit. They make a new cloak, I guess, and then do the two spells by saying them backwards. Gusty congratulates Shady on her quick thinking. The Bush Boys destroy the cloak and say that they'll take Porcena down in their tunnels to live as her hairdresser. And so our story ends. Thank God! From writing to production, this episode was just badly done. It's like no one cared. They just had to throw out another episode to fill a week. I'm glad to say Tracy's writing career ended here. Michael returned to Ponies with Spike's Search, a standalone episode in Season 2, which was a much better episode than this, though that's not much of an accomplishment. I believe this episode is a classic case of what Lauren Faust has crusaded against, which is a lack of respect for girls in entertainment. Many shows geared towards girls weren't bad because you can have a quality show with a predominantly female cast. If anything, this show, as well as Gemini Holograms, proved, well, most of the time, that you can have a show with a predominantly female cast just as good as comparable shows with a predominantly male cast geared towards boys. I mean, really, the writing in My Little Pony was just as good, if not better, than the writing in the Transformers and G.I. Joe. The problem was a lack of respect for the female viewers as well as the female protagonists, and there was absolutely no respect for the ponies or the audience in making this episode. The Raptorians and Porcena were the most unimpressive villains in the ponies' gallery of rogues. They were unimposing physically, mentally, and the whole point was that they had no power and were trying to obtain it. Yet the ponies didn't even try to do anything against them. They hid from them and were portrayed at their weakest in this episode. Scratch that. The ponies weren't weak. They were absolutely pathetic in this. The writers grossly underestimated or completely ignored the capabilities of the ponies. I mean, these are the same ponies who would fight a desperate guerrilla war against Grogar and his army of armed troggles. If they're willing to fight against a force like that, what about Porcena and the birddogs made them just roll over like they did? What's so overwhelmingly intimidating about these freaks that the captives didn't even try to escape? That Porcena would turn them into glass? She couldn't! That was the whole point of the episode, and the ponies should have figured that out. The birddogs would have recaptured them? We watched them bumble around all episode. The only reason they caught the ponies in the first place was because they got them by surprise and everyone else was teleported back to Paradise Estate for some reason. If you want us to believe that the villain is a threat, make them threatening! Otherwise the protagonists look pathetic for not trying to stop them. And I've gone on and on about the slipshod quality of every aspect of this episode, especially the writing. If they thought that they could just dump this episode on the audience, they clearly didn't respect the intelligence of that audience. My biggest point is Porcena. What a badly thought out heel face turn. Of the 5 heel face turns, including Katrina in this series, this is the worst in terms of plan and execution. Although Bumbles was just as out of the blue, she did not do what Porcena had done, her motivation was not as unforgivable. As I said, Porcena was written as a truly evil, or more likely sociopathic villain up until the end. To suggest that she was anything else is a conceit. If they wanted her to be something else, they should have written her as something else. A related problem was how it seemed like the writers thought they were being clever with the plot. They'd make it look like Porcena was the main villain when it was really the Raptorians. However, they weren't clever. Porcena did not come off as a stooge, and the Raptorians were too stupid to be convincing users. So the plot twists came off more as they didn't know what the hell they were doing. A better approach would have been for the Raptorians to pretend that they were victims like the ponies and convince the ponies to help get rid of Porcena. Then when they had gotten rid of her, turn on the ponies. And that would have been a much more interesting and intelligent episode. But what's truly sick about this whole ordeal was this episode was included with the magic coins in a set called 2 Great Pony Stories. Really? That would be like bundling Spock's brain with the Enterprise incident and calling it 2 Great Star Trek Stories. The Magic Coins is arguably the best arc of the series. But this one's just plain terrible! Unsurprisingly, this episode gets a rating of a void. This is a bad episode, and that's all I have to say here.
What? Are you crazy?